Well, here I am saying hello to my good friend and neighbour, Dan Retief. He's a wonderful sports journalist in South Africa, and of course, this country is abuzz with excitement about the big match tomorrow. So, Dan, I'm really stealing a little bit of your thunder. What do you think about tomorrow?
Mark, it's a very strange one to call. It's a very different time, a very difficult time, a very tough time, and a very odd test match that we're going into, and a very odd test series. So, for instance, all three tests at the same venue, no crowds. So the funny thing for me is that the Springboks go to the Cape Town Stadium, and it is as unfamiliar to them as it is to the British and Irish Lions.
Yeah.
So in fact, the B&I Lions are expecting to play at a strange ground. But there's another factor. We won't have our fans, but they also won't have their fans, because when the Lions tour, they call it the Sea of Red, and the stadium is just red. And when I look at the ticket allocations that happened, it was very clear that UK fans have got more tickets than we had, because very few people seem to get test tickets. So it's a strange time. It's going to be a strange test match, and there are just so many factors, so many imponderables that you really don't know where to go with this one. I think before we actually talk about the test match itself, I'd like to emphasise that the British and Irish Lions are a tremendous side. They've got fabulous players. They're really good backs, really good wings. Their vulnerability might be in the front row, where it was England's in the Rugby World Cup. But they're a good side. They're well coached by Gatland, who knows his way around. He's been on these tours before. They've been in camp. They've been in quarantine. They've been together. And they would really have been talking about, we're a team, not a team of individuals, And that is, if we go back in history, what made Willie John's side so successful. They were a team. They weren't a group of individuals. They stood behind each other. I've got your back. One for all for one. And then Martin Johnson, when they beat us in a series as well, picked up on the same thing, that South Africa is going to be tough. We're going to be very physical. It's part of our DNA, and they're going to come for us, and we have to stand up to that. And you can already see that the Lions are very much prepared for a tough encounter, and the team they've picked, they're getting ready to take us on in the forwards. Mm-hmm. So I expect a titanic clash of great big bodies piling into each other.
Dan, you stand here and everybody will look at you and say, what do you think the result is going to be tomorrow?
That's the hardest one. When I say imponderables, there's just so much that goes on. For instance, we have not played other than one game against Georgia since we won the Rugby World Cup in 2019. So that's one test match in all that time. And we seem to have gone with pretty much as much of the experience as we could, although we have picked a reasonably strange side. So when I pick with when I say the imponderables, Peter de Villiers said it best, you got to be able to control the uncontrollables, which sounds impossible, but I knew what he meant. There are things that happen that you've got to be able to respond to. So for instance, we're playing with a referee, Nick Berry. He's an Australian. We haven't played with an Australian referee in charge for that period since 2019. They do things slightly differently. The game has moved on. As you know, a big bugbear of mine is that the referees are being expected to call the game by instinct rather than by the law. So they make it up. It's an interpretation thing. So what is Nick Berry's interpretation going to have an effect on us? Although he is Southern Hemisphere, or on the Lions. So there's a very crucial factor. We don't know about that field. Does it play fast? Does it play slow? We know Newlands was heavy. Loftus was hard and fast. So that's a new thing. How do the players respond to not having a crowd in the stadium? Everybody's been through COVID. They've all had their problems. They've been away from their families. That could be a factor. Then in modern rugby, injury. Imagine an early injury that could really undo a team completely. For instance, the Springboks. If we were to lose Andre Pollard, we would be in deep trouble. I think he's head and shoulders our best fly half, and we don't have a natural substitute. So that's the one. Then the situation now with yellow cards and red cards, and they've gone to the thing with head injuries and high tackles, which is the game has to have a look at head injuries. It's very important. They've been finding rugby players that have serious problems from having been banged on the head, but it is a hard physical game. So they're trying to eradicate that. But we've seen a situation now where players have already, and I'm sure the coaches are telling them, are starting to dip into the tackle. So you could get a freakish head-high tackle, a clash of heads, and one team could lose a player. It happened to Australia the other day, and that could throw us all out, you know. So I think before we then, and I'm not trying to evade making a prediction, but I'm just saying that there's just so much that is contradictory that you can't predict, that you've got to take into account, and that luck plays such a big role. So where's all that going to go? I can't tell you. So I think what we can do in a moment, if you just give me another question, then we can talk about the game itself.
Thank you, Dan. We're going to stop there and have a breather. Well, Dan, you've really got us interested, and now I'm curious to see what you think the next step is going to be, and if you were the coach, where would you move?
Well, the most crucial thing in a 3-match test series is the first test, because you win the first test, then you're one test away from winning the series. The other team is under all the pressure. The times the British Lions have won a series in South Africa under Willie John McBride, under Martin Johnson, they won the first test. And that put the Springboks under that great pressure, and you playing catch up, because then the coach doesn't quite know whether he's got the right team or not, and they start making changes. So in this series, it's so hard to call. I think it's going to go to 1-1, and there'll be a decider at the Cape Town Stadium. And I'm edging for the first one towards the Lions, because I think they're more experienced, they're more settled, and we still, to an extent, resting on our laurels from the 2019 Rugby World Cup, but it's not the same team. There's some really big changes and some players that might not be properly fit. So for this one, the Lions.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.